Tal everyone, and welcome to the Sardar. I am RSVP of Turia, and we're going to start doing discussions, Sunday discussions, hopefully weekly. So first of all, if you have a topic you would like to discuss, let us know, and we will set up a time that works for you and have it. This is a discussion, not a lecture. Okay. I will ask that you know what, there's no need to raise hands or anything like that. It's just if you want to speak. If someone else is trying to speak besides me, wait for them to finish and then just jump right in. I'm going to talk about power and a theory, actually a practice that I've had for a long time now, because I'm old, and after observing things, not just online. I've been part of Online Gore for 23 years now. Going to be 24 later this year. And aspects of real life, relationships, work, everything. What constitutes power has changed throughout history. It used to be just physical strength. The strong took what they wanted back in, with the cavemen and everything. Then it became, as we became more civilized and more socialized, power could have been money or station. In medieval times, kings, queens, dukes, earls, counts, all those things. So when we get into that is a different type of power, though. So I like to maintain that there are two types of power that people have, whether it's money, prestige, influence. It could have been at certain times in history, it was who held certain commodities, spices and things that gave you great power. But the two types of power that always endure, everything comes down to two types. There is personal power and there is positional power. They are not mutually exclusive, but just because you have one doesn't necessarily mean you have the other. Personal power. Everyone knows people with personal power. People that in an informal group are the leaders that everyone looks to. It could be because of certain skills, again, money, different aspects, but it's personal power that they have. They created that power for themselves. Positional power. Positional power is just that. You have power, authority based on your position. In the military, officers have power over the enlisted. In companies, higher level vice presidents, presidents have power over their underlings. Middle managers have power over the regular workers. Foreman has power over the shift workers. It's a positional power. Teachers have power over students. It's positional power. I mean, I'm sure we've all had teachers that just were leaders and everybody, they just led everybody. They had power. It was personal power and positional power. And we've all had teachers that were just idiots and you don't know how they got the job. In workplaces, a lot of times people that have personal power because they're smart, they're talented, they're hardworking, they do rise to positions of personal power. But again, many times, and there's a lot of people that have a lot of personal power, but they never get promoted for whatever reason. So they have personal power, no positional power. We talked about the one before, the person is talented, gets promoted, they have personal power and positional power. And there's the one that I think everybody's had, It could be the son of the boss, the nephew, somebody. You get a person in a company that gets promoted and is put in a position of power, and they have no clue what they're doing. And typically, I shouldn't say that, a lot of the time, a person like that is horribly obnoxious, and they're bullies because they don't have personal power. They crave the positional power, and they abuse the positional power. Anybody have any comments? And trust me, I welcome comments. Oh my God, I put everybody to sleep already.
No, Master, Crystal thinks that there's, it's throughout history. One of the significant powers not mentioned was religious power.
Religious power, again,
spiritual.
It could be monetary, but religious power could be, people wield that. Again, you have people that have personal power, preachers, size thing, but you also have some that have, and they also have positional power. You get in modern religion and in older religions, you had people that it was positional power. A lot of times, again, going back to medieval times, the eldest son would inherit the title of the family. Other next sons, second, third, fourth born sons, they would try to marry them to another titled family that had a daughter but no sons, and they would get that title, the positional power. Sons that couldn't, that neither one of those would work for, they would then go into, again, but it was a positional power. So there's positional power within religion. There's positional power within wealthy, within money. There's positional power within the military. So I mean, there are different things that constitute power.
Actually, noble families, always one child was given to the church, no matter what, either male or female. And actually, fun fact, Henry VIII was actually destined to become a priest, but then his brothers died and he became king.
Okay, but again, they did that because they wanted the position. It was a way to maintain their power. So yeah, but Chris, I mean, yeah, religious power is certainly a pipe, but most of the time it's whoever starts the religion group, whatever, is typically a person with personal power, but then the underlings become mostly people of positional. It's a position of power, and positional power is look at the hierarchy in a lot of religions. You have Catholic, you have the Pope, cardinals, bishops, monsignors. You have a whole hierarchy, and it is positional power. And like I said, it's an interesting thing because it's not mutually exclusive, but they're not always together. And you can have one without the other either way, either direction.
If I may.
Anybody else want? Yes, please.
Use your church example. That it's an interesting example because originally it was quite different. The church was all about personal power, not positional. It would not have succeeded. The Christian religion would not have succeeded if it wasn't for highly charismatic individuals who were the original disciples who actually spread the religion. So you have examples of both kinds there.
Yes, yeah. I mean, again, typically when something's started, you have to have personal power to keep it going. I mean, companies, people, the people that get the companies off the ground, would typically had personal power, and then that they created a company which gave them positional power, which then as it grew, and again, some companies keep it going. The leaders of some companies are always people of personal power that achieve the positional power. But again, it's not always the case. I mean, anybody in the military knows that you certainly get some inept officers
Oh, hell yeah.
They have positional power, but but people wouldn't follow them into a bar for free drinks. They're so bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what's the term? Friendly fire?
Fragging.
Sometimes they can take care. Yeah, sometimes they can take care of it, but okay. All right. Warlock, can you speak?
But more importantly, can you hear?
I didn't. Okay. How have you been?
I had quite the shock at second light early.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry Lady River couldn't hear.
Login master.
Okay.
There's a table. Okay.
I'm sorry, what? Anyway, just that's like I say, that's basically my theory, and it just whenever you start to really break things down and look at them, it's amazing that you always have those two things. And again, it's one person can definitely wield both, and a lot of times do. I mean, in a perfect world, people who had positional power would also always have personal power, but that's not the case. And people with personal power would always get positional power, but again, that's not always the case.
Master, what would that look like in Agorian?
Yeah, that's a good point. And we see that a lot. You see a lot of people who are, since it's a male-dominated world, I'll say that you get a lot of guys that come on and they are strong and intelligent, and they have personal power. People gravitate towards them, and a lot of times those people become the leaders of communities. So they have both positional and personal power. You do have some people that come in and guys that are, again, strong. They have plenty of personal power, but they don't want a position. They just want to enjoy their time here more. They don't want to take, it's not they don't want to take responsibility. They just have no need for the positional power, so they don't take that. And then you get the people, which you get a lot of people, I think, guys that have no personal power. I make a differentiation between men and males a lot, but you have males that come on and they come to Gore, they hear about it and they come to Gore strictly because they crave positional power, because they have no real power, they have no personal power. And I've heard plenty of guys say, "Oh, I can go to Gore if I'm a master, if I'm a free person, girls have to do what I say. They have to listen to me. They have to pay attention to me." And so they come in and because they crave that positional power, because they have no personal power. And you get some people that grow into it and get better. And you have a lot of guys, and I'm sure the women have all experienced this. You get a lot of guys that are just what we call HNGs, hopelessly not Korean, or horny neck geeks. They're just trying to use the fact that they've got their title as master to try to get girls to have cyber sex with them. So the only power they have is positional, and to me that's a perfect example of it.
Well, I'll give you another one that I've always hated. The U-Bar by checkbook. The guy who buys the sim, and he's the king and knows everything, and he's the one in charge. He doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground.
That's okay. That's true. I mean, you could argue that he had some personal power because he had cash, but you're right. He doesn't. He hasn't earned it. He hasn't earned. Again, that's he's bought positional power. So. I mean, we certainly have examples throughout history of women with the same thing, personal and positional power.
Eleanor,
Yeah,
the other
May
Honor.
Priest speak for a moment?
certainly.
Catherine the Great.
Speaking, as you said, of the women in positional power, you can just look at Tsarist Russia, for instance, Empress Elizabeth. The last decade of her life, she never slept in the same bed twice because she had usurped the throne, and she feared for her life because she was afraid of assassination for somebody usurping the throne from her. And so
Yeah,
that
I mean,
was,
like I said,
she had great power, but also great fear.
well, yeah, but again, yeah, her power was purely positional.
Yes.
So I think the lady Fenn, was it you that were trying to speak?
Great, but the thing is, with in those times, it was not only about, you know, not having personal power versus whatever. Just because you're a woman, I mean, in those times, anyone, even if they had personal power, was subject to assassination attempts. It was
Yes.
they did that all the time, no matter what. If you had personal, positional, whatever power, they just tried to kill you. that
Yeah,
was
it was.
part of-
Well, they were trying to kill you over the positional power, but yeah, but it didn't matter that you had it because you earned it, deserved it, whatever you want to call it.
yeah.
We're still trying to take that power.
Yeah, no matter what, if you deserved it, if you didn't deserve it, they just wanted you dead. That was pretty much it. So
Although if you didn't deserve it, more people wanted you dead, I think. But
that's true. But even sometimes people had personal power and were charismatic, but were still, you know, rat bastards to their people. So, you know, I mean,
yeah,
there's that as well. So, you know, I mean, or look at Hitler. He did a lot of great things for Germany, but he murdered and massacred 6 million Jews. So, you know, I mean,
Oh, here we go again.
there's-
I'm sorry, that number
Here
pisses
goes-
me off every time I hear it.
what?
Hitler did not, the Holocaust was not 6 million Jews. It was 8.5 million people, 6 million of which were Jews. Almost 2 million were Roma, and another 500,000 were political. Everybody keeps forgetting the other 2.5 million.
No, I don't, because actually some of my family were incarcerated as well. But I mean, my God, I mean, if you want to get nitpicky, yes. Homosexuals, political dissidents,
Yep.
everyone,
I count all
okay?
the
Absolutely.
political, but yeah.
Yeah.
Point being, 8.5, not 6. But go ahead.
and he was a heinous man. It's just
Yeah, I
you know,
think we all agree on that part.
Yeah,
But the point is that he was popular because, at least with some part of the population, because he did bring, you know, Germany to the 24th century. He built an incredible infrastructure and things like that. So they propped him up, and so he did have personal power. Was it good personal power? Absolutely not.
yes.
He was evil to the core, but he did have personal power.
And a lot
And
of
he
charisma.
attracted-
yes.
And
Yeah.
charisma
Well,
is probably
again,
the most common personal power, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's power is not. It's not. It doesn't.
But
It
it's
doesn't.
strongest.
Has nothing to do with morality. It's just power. Just that's one. You know, whether you know certain good people treated their people well, you know, or horrible people. That's a whole different subject. And it's subjective too, because you know the old saying, "History is written by the winners," is kind of used to be really true.
The other old saying is power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
That's true too.
To go back to the previous examples.
Yeah.
But anyway, I quickly breezed by a comment. Charisma. Does anyone disagree with the fact that I think that's the strongest of the personal powers? Because it's one thing to be able to
I
pop
think-
somebody upside the head, but another to get 10 people to do it for you.
I think
Yeah,
money.
charisma-
I think
well-
charisma and money might be equal.
No, money is.
Money-
There's things that you cannot get a person to do with money, but if someone has charisma, it puts you and make you do things that you would never think you would do otherwise. Money, marginally, yes. But
I
you
think
know,
money could go either way. Money could be, you can consider money positional power too, because the money gives you position and stature.
That could be.
but money has nothing to do really with personal power. Not really. It has to do with positional power because you can have money all you like. You know, in a situation, let's say, where you're suddenly stranded in the jungle, and you know the people you were paying before, they might just drown you in the river. You know, like if they don't like you. So I mean, money only becomes
Yeah,
power
yeah.
where you are in a situation or in an
Yeah,
infrastructure.
I have to agree with
it's
you.
really more.
Matter.
It's, and not only Jim
That's
Jones,
true.
but even Hitler. How do you think he rose to power? Not just by what he gave them, but by what he said. It first was the speeches in the beer gardens. Same thing for Stalin. Same thing for all the great dictators. Hell, even Napoleon was a little corporal till he convinced everybody to be on his side.
Yeah, I actually go back to money being, because okay, let's take money for example as a form of power. Well, you have a person who works hard, has charisma, creates a business, makes it successful. His family becomes wealthy. His kids now have money. They don't have, they have no personal power at all, but they have the positional power of money, of status.
Positional power, yes, but not personally. It's
Right.
best example. My brother. My brother is the male Paris Hilton. I walked away from my family. My family has money. My brother is the biggest idiot on the planet. He's a doofus, but he has a lot of money. But you will find him standing in front of clubs screaming, "Do you know who I am?" You know, like I mean,
Yeah,
and all
yeah,
his money is
yeah,
in the world
yeah.
is not going to get him through that door. You know, unless he greases it very much. But you know, it's like it's embarrassing, but that's the prime example because he grew
Yeah,
up
the only
with
power he has
never
is positional. Yeah,
been earning.
I
Yeah.
agree with you. Yeah, and money
So
is
that,
money is a form of positional power. But money is has been at certain times, and it's I mean sometimes money's the source, what the ultimate power for people. Sometimes it's
money
information.
is a tool. Money is a tool like information. If you do not know how to use the tool, it becomes a blunt instrument. If you have the quality to know how to use a tool, it can blow things wide open. But you know, as I said, you have to know how to actually wield the tool.
Well, that's with all power. That's like when going back to when swords were how people fought. People that had that knew how to wield a weapon properly, the sword, the skill with the sword was power.
The first ones that got
Skill
to
with
the Iron
money.
Age also, because they took all the bronze swords and cleaved them too when they hit them.
Yeah, yeah.
So technology
So
counts. But again, tools. Actually, I was going to say money is a personal power, but after that discussion about it being a tool, I'm going to go with that instead. I'm gonna
yeah.
have to
Well, I don't
agree.
think it's.
Not
I
a
think it's more.
personal
I think it's definitely.
Again,
Yeah, I don't think personal. I think it's positional.
I think it's a tool to power, which may be a third.
Hello,
subject, maybe a
everyone.
third-
Can you
Hello,
guys
Lady
hear me?
Shy. Yes.
Oh, cool. Cool beans.
Anyway,
All
so
ladies, guys.
that's like I say, you could go on different tangents of this, but it all comes down to, there is there's two distinct types of power: personal and positional.
I guess my question is that, I mean, I hear what everyone's saying with regards to power, and but when you're in a situation and you have these two different types of power, and it's a means for you to evaluate people, but if somebody does have personal power, you're probably more helpless towards them because they actually truly wield some pretty strong power. But if you're talking about, I mean, I think to me it's a little confusing in the sense of in my mind I'm thinking, so what difference does it make that there's two different types of power? Who cares? Because it's still power, and both of them still give people, I don't know, strength and position, and I mean, over others.
Well,
So when
I think
I like to look at things is is there one that's better? Is there one that is uh, more negative or evil, or because otherwise it makes no difference to
Power
me.
is always
I don't-
So
I don't-
get,
Well, first of all,
What?
the power is never evil or good. It is neutral.
Right.
It is what you do
It-
with it. Now, but to
Yeah.
answer your question, why dissect the differences in power? I'll tell you why. Say you're in a position where you're at war with someone. You need to deduct who your enemy is. If your enemy is some doofus that is buying loyalty, you go against him a completely different route than you would do a man who has the loyalty of his people due to his charisma. Because it's a completely different battle plan that you have when you deal with that. Knowing your enemy, knowing the people that you deal with, knowing what kind of person they are, it's knowledge is power. That is why. That is why you need to know why.
Yeah, I mean, the difference of if you're fighting a battle with someone, and as soon as it gets tough, if you're right, if they're positional, they bought the mercenaries. The mercenaries aren't going to fight to the death. They're going to, as soon as the tide turns against them, they're going to run. But the person with personal power, his people are going to be loyal to the death. They're going to fight to the death for him. So yeah, it's a totally different thing. And let's take the example to Gore, okay? And Kendra, you'll know that, you know this one well. Free have you're Khajiit, so free have positional power over you. I have positional and personal power over you. And so I've told you time and time again, you follow Turian protocols because, and even at the sense of anger, if somebody with positional power tries to tell you to do something against my rules for you, you're not going to do it. You're going to apologize to them and try to be, gracious and appease them, but bottom line, you're not going to do it because their positional power is a temporary thing, where my power over you is more permanent. So somebody with positional power, they're not necessarily going to be in that position all the time. So it can be more of a temporary power. Someone with personal power is more of a lasting power. Again, not good, not evil. Power is just a thing, but some power is more lasting than others. Tell, Lady Lace.
Brianna has a question.
Go ahead.
Lady Finn mentioned something about power and charisma versus money. Somebody who is in power because of money and somebody who's in power because of charisma. What about somebody who's in power because of both?
Well, that certainly happens. That again, like I said, positional power and personal power are not mutually exclusive. You can have both, or you can have one. You can have either one or without the other. They're
Best example of somebody having both, Alexander the Great. He was born in a royal family and he took it to the next level and conquered vast amount of territory because he had both.
Yeah, in the known world. So,
Yeah.
Or another example, use Henry V and Henry VI. Both had the exact same positional power. Henry V had great personal power, Henry VI had none. Henry V took back half of France, Henry VI lost it because he was an idiot.
That's a really good example.
yeah, that's great.
Really is, actually.
Yeah, so like I say, the best, if things were in a perfect world, only people with personal power would have positional power, but that doesn't happen. We've all worked with people that had positional power that don't deserve it.
And coming back to strategy, okay? Let's say you have two enemies. You have enemy number one who just, basically bought his men and whatnot. Yes, of course, as it was said, his men are not going to fight to the death. Now, you have a little bit more of a challenge with someone who has charisma. However, that is not a lost feat either. But knowing that they have their power through charisma, you start doing a campaign basically breaking down their charisma or breaking down their reputation. So you go for the reputation long before you go after them physically. You start planting things, to make people mistrust them. All that you break down the structure underneath them, and then you go for the kill physically. That is why you need to know who you're dealing with.
Somebody read Sun Tzu.
I think a lot of people read Sun Tzu. All right. Well, this was a total, again, I've had this discussion a lot, and this one took a little bit, totally, some of the same things, but a lot of different things than I've normally had. So.
Shall I wrap the video?
I
Not
think that's,
necessarily, Crystal.
Thank you everyone for being here.
all right.